येन भूतले अयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरु वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथामृतं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नम ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यस्य कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna. So, welcome back to the Bhaktyaloka series. We have been discussing the last of the six good qualities a devotee should develop in order to attain pure devotion, that is Sadhu Vritti or Sato Vritti. And in the last class, if you remember, how Bhaktivinoda Thakur starts this article of the meaning of the word, occupation. It can be in propensity or lifestyle. Propensity, he says, as Swabhava. And based on those Swabhav, there is a dharma, which is, we call it as Varnashram dharma. So he goes into these two kinds of sadhus. There's the grahastha, there's the grahatyagi. And then accordingly, there will be vritti in terms of propensity and lifestyle. The propensity means swabhava. And then he starts quoting that, the Vedas in every yuga give knowledge about the occupation according to one's nature, which brings happiness. And then to attain devotion, which is nirguna, first one has to, act according to his vritya swabhava kritaya. And then slowly, you have to come to nirguna, transcendental. That's where pure devotion begins. And then he quotes another verse to state that, you know, uh, one has to, if he has to attain the Lord, he has to transcend the modes. And then how one should do it? First, one should conquer the modes of passion and ignorance. And then slowly, when one is in the goodness, then he has to transcend goodness and attain. And for that, Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions that human beings are eligible for the propensity in the mode of goodness. And what are the general propensities? He lists those 30 propensities from the Bhagavatam again. And based on this, there is the classification of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. A Brahmana is also in the mode of goodness, but he is fully pacified the modes of passion and ignorance. Whereas a Kshatriya, there is passion, but it is under the control of goodness. But the quantity of passion is more. In the Vaishya, the goodness is there, but there is more quantity of passion and ignorance. And in Shudra also there is goodness, but the quantity of ignorance is more. So based on that, please remember all these are in the mode of goodness, but different grades of passion and ignorance. So based on this, there is the classification of the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishna. And because of that Swabhava, one can see one is a Brahmana or a Kshatriya or a Vaishya. And then he goes on to now quote what is the dharma of a sannyasi, because based on these four varnas, there is the four ashramas. So what are of the sannyasis, the grahatyagis, and what is the activities of the grahastas, both the grahastas and the grahatyagis. So he quotes that, and then he goes into the detail. What is the occupation of a Brahmana, a Kshatriya, Vaishya, and the Shudras. And then this is a very important discussion. And as long as we don't understand this, unless one makes the gross and subtle bodies favorable for devotional service, one cannot engage in such. And for the gross body, there is need to accumulate household paraphernalia items, all that. For the subtle body, need according to proper knowledge and proper occupation. So only when the gross and subtle bodies are properly situated like this, and you make them favorable to devotional service, and gradually you have to situate them about the modes. Then your devotional service actually begins. Till then it is mixed. Please remember that. And in that context, uh, he mentions the need of the varnashram. And by following varnashram, one becomes eligible to practice pure devotion service. Pure devotion service. Now, how this is to implemented within ISKCON, great leaders have been trying to do it. But first, at least we have to study and understand that what is my nature, what is my conditioning, and based on that, what kind of occupation I'm doing, and how I should do that occupation in a more pure way, where I stay in a setup which is, close to a community where, I can practice more the core activities of devotional service, hearing and chanting. This is what Prabhupada mentions in one of the purports. For the Jnanis, Vivikta Sevi means they should stay in a secluded place. Prabhupada says for devotees, it means they should stay uh, in the community of devotees. So, like that, he mentions. So, then he quotes that how if one doesn't follow, because these four varnas and ashrams have come from the universal form of the Lord. And if one doesn't follow according to the four varnas and ashrams, sthanat brashta patantya, the and then he quotes this famous verse in the Ramananda Samvad that varnashamacharavata purushena parha puman vishnuraradate panta nanya tattosha karanam. So then Bhaktivinoda Thakur clarifies, Mahaprabhu rejected, "Ye to bhai." But what does the deeper meaning of Mahaprabhu's rejection? He just said it is bhai. I don't discard it. It is externally said, bhai. So what Mahaprabhu means is, Varnashram is meant to regulate the gross and subtle bodies. But that is not the ultimate goal. Ultimate goal is to engage in parodharma. But for that, you have to regulate the gross and subtle bodies. So, although it is the only means for the purification of the conditioned soul, it is external. And then he quotes this: if only one regulates the gross and subtle bodies and doesn't develop rati for Krishna, then it is Shrama Evahi Keva. So that is why Bhaktivinoda Thakur says one should not conclude that Mahaprabhu discarded the Varnashram. If that was the case, then he would have instructed. He would have not instructed all the living entities through his pastimes to completely follow the orders of Grahastha and Sannyas. So as long as one has the material body, the system of Varnashram must be followed, but it should be remain under the full control and domination of bhakti. So this is, this is a very, very important sutra for us to remember. Just like, we cultivate the mode of goodness so that passion and ignorance remain under the complete domination of goodness. So we cultivate Varnashram, but completely under the domination of bhakti. That means all those principles in the Varnashram which take us more towards pure devotional service, we adopt them because Varnashram is the best vehicle to take up to pure devotional service. So whatever principles are favorable, so those principles we adopt because they remain under the complete domination of bhakti. Varnashram is like the foundation for one supreme occupational parodharma. Parodharma is, sadhana bhakti. When one's supreme occupational duty is matured and one achieves this goal, then the process is gradually interrupted. So once you attain Shuddha Bhakti, then gradually you slowly give it up. And again it is abandoned at the time of death. Now this is where we ended our discussion, if you remember in the last class. Now let us come to further discussion what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is speaking about that verse quoted in Vishnu Purana. What is that? In the last half of the verse quoted by Srila Raman Rai, it says, Vishnur aradate panta nanya tattosha karanam. One should know that without following the process of Varnashram Dharma, a materialist has no alternative to pass his life favorably for the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. So again, uh, uh, a deeper meaning of this verse, which is sometimes misunderstood, is that actually Varnashram, it is by Varnashram that one satisfies the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But here you can see how Bhaktivinoda Thakur has translated that the process of Varnashram is meant to turn a materialist favorable. Those favorable conditions are there so that he can take up to devotional service. So that is the point being made. That's like, I was mentioning that, there is the airport because that environment is created so that the flight can take off. You just cannot take off from your building a flight. Helicopter, of course, you can take off, but I'm just speaking about a flight. So that favorable environment which is created, which helps you to take off to pure devotional service, is that Varnashram. So this environment or that airport is that Varnashram Dharma. But airport itself is not pure devotional service. The flight we take off and then you just go straight to the spiritual world. So that, to reach the lotus feet of Vishnu or Krishna. So that is what is actually this verse saying, Vishnu aradate panta nanya tattosha karanam. But if you remember how Sut Goswami has, analyzed what is parodharma. Parodharma, he says, savai pumsan parodharma yato bhaktir adokshaje ahitu pratyata yenatma suprasidati. So, what is the highest dharma for all living beings? Not Varnashram dharma. Sut Goswami is saying Parodharma. And if one is following Varnashrama and he has not developed Rati for Krishna, then all his following of Varnashrama is Shrama Eva Hi Kevalam. And ultimately he concludes in verse 13. Ata Pumbe Judashreshta Varnashrama Vibhakasha Sonishtrista Dharmasya Samsiddhir Haritoshanam. So we situate according to your Varnashram and perform Parodharma. Perform Parodharma, your occupational duties. But for what? Ultimately, Samsiddhir Haritoshanam. That means the whole purpose is to realize the absolute truth. The realization of the absolute truth is given in verse 11 and 12. So to realize the absolute truth, you situate in Varnashram, and by that, the absolute truth will be pleased. So that is a deeper meaning. Some Siddhir Haritoshanam. Nanya Tat Tosha Karanam is different, and some Siddhir Haritoshanam is quite different. Here also Tosha, some Siddhir Haritoshanam has come. Some Siddhir, Samyak Rupena Siddhi. This is, the means to attain to devotion. No alternative life to pass his life favorably. So this is the only way to achieve a life of a devotee, to become a devotee. Now it's seen that I'm just giving an example which Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his own article mentions uh, that he's just writing this in the 18th and 19th century. He's mentioning that we have this Pancha Samskars. The Pancha Samskars are, if you know, there is the Pundrak, there is the, Nama. We are given the name while Diksha, the Harinam Diksha. And then there is a Chinna. The Chinna are the symbols, the Vaishnav Tilaks. And then there is the Yaga. Yaga means, to perform the deity worship, for which we have given the second initiation. So there is the first initiation, there is the second initiation. So in the first initiation, uh, we are given the name, we are given the mantra, the Hare Krishna Maha mantra, and we are given to the markings of the tilaks which we apply. In the second initiation, we are given the Diksha mantras, the Gayatri mantras we chant, and then we do to the deity worship. Now, all this is meant for the purification of the body. Of course, the Hare Krishna Maha mantra is completely transcendental, and you don't even need initiation to chant the Hare Krishna Maha mantra and attain pure devotion, prema. If you chant Shuddhanam, then you can transcend first and second initiation. But to chant Shuddhanam, your body has to pure. Your body has to be purified. Your body should be more in the mode of goodness. Your activity should be in the mode of goodness. So to chant the Shuddhanam, this first and second initiation are required. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions that today people's conditionings are so deep, and their character is not good. And if they are not leading a sinless life, they commit sins, papa, then where they can get purified? This is his question. So only when you come to the point of a sinless life, then from there you can take up to pure devotion and become a pure devotee. So that is what is the point Bhaktivinoda Thakur is making here. This is the only way to achieve a life of a devotee. And we know, it's my own experience in the last 20, 25 years that many devotees uh, take up initiation, whether it is first or second, but yet, you know, uh, remember, even telling a lie is sin. And then what to speak, sometimes they are still battling with their conditionings, battling with their bad habits, and sometimes do commit sinful activities. So where is the question of becoming a devotee? These sub-religious principles of the four regulative principles is to come to the human form of life, to prepare yourself. You know. So if we don't come to that point, then so this is Varnashram helps. That is the point which is being made by Bhaktivinoda Thakur here. Human beings are divided according to the nature into the following divisions: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Shankara, and Anteja. Varna Sankar, we have come. Anteja are, I don't know, some kind of tribals. Even though the system of Varnashram is not clearly present in some countries, still it exists in a seedling form. Please remember that Varnashram is a universal principle. It exists everywhere. It's not that it's only in India. Everywhere in the world, you can classify these persons, and that's why Prabhupada, in all his purports, he doesn't mention sometimes Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. He says there is the intellectual class, there is the administrative class, there is the mercantile class, and then there is a labor class, he says. So everyone has these kind of skills. According to one's nature, he develops his occupation, and accordingly, his means of livelihood. So if his means of livelihood is not coming from a very pure source, then he continues to live a sinful life. So his subtle conditioning, Swabhav, instead of getting purified, it is becoming more and more contaminated. But Chaito Darpan Marjanam has to happen, and the conditioning has to be completely purified. And from there, pure devotion begins. But your means of livelihood is such that you are continuously, while acquiring your means of livelihood, you're committing sins, then where is the question? It's like you're pouring ghee in the fire is burning, and then you're pouring water. The fire is getting doused. So you are doing the chanting and you're committing sinful activities. It is namno baladi yase papa buddhi. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going to give example. By accepting the livelihood and occupation of others, one meets with misfortune. And Krishna twice in the Bhagavad Gita is warning Arjuna about this. Twice. If you remember, anyone knows which are the verses, where it is? Anyone remembers? Anyone knows? Raise your hands. Where in the Bhagavad Gita? At least tell me which chapter it is. Okay. One has to be thorough with the Bhagavad Gita. It is 3.35. Shreyan swadharmo viguna paradharmat swanushtitat swadharme nidanam shreya paradharmo bhayavaha. So here again, Shreyan Swadharma, Shreyan means, it is better. Again, Swadharma is not, here pure devotion. Swadharma is according to Varnashram. Arjuna is being told that you do your Kshatriya Swadharma and don't do a Brahmana Padharma, Swadharma. Paradharma means again, it is not pure devotion. It is duty mentioned for others. See, Prabhupada is so clear. Paradharma actually refers to pure devotion, but in this context, in this verse, it refers to others' duties. Far better than one's own prescribed duties, even if they are faulty, then then it is not good for you to do others' dharma. Like the Arjuna is not addressed to do Brahmana dharma, although you can do that perfectly. Swadharme nidhanam shreya. By performing your swadharma as a Kshatriya, even if you are killed, it is better. Paradharma bhayavaha. It is dangerous. Now, again, this verse is completely misunderstood by outside people in the outside world and sometimes by devotees also. So you have to understand what this verse actually is saying. Okay. And Prabhupada, of course, is giving his purport from the Bhakti context. In the 18th chapter, again, it will come. And it will come after giving the natures of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. Uh, he gives the nature qualities of a Brahmana, qualities of a Kshatriya, qualities of a Vaishya, and then Swe Swe Karmani Abhiratta. You should perform your Swadharma according to your nature. Then you can attain perfection. And then, yes, again it comes in Shreyan Swadharma Viguna. Paradharma Swanishritat. Swabhavam Niyatam Karma Kurvannapnoti Kilmisha. That's how we can become. The first two lines remain the same as in 3.35. So that's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur was also saying. One meets with misfortune. What to speak of misfortune? It especially obstructs one's devotional service. Birth is not the only criteria. The only criteria is one's nature. It's not that the birth is criteria. Generally, in the traditional Varnashram, which has been there for millions of years, a Brahmana is to marry a Brahmani and generally is to be born as a Brahmana because the culture, the samskars of both the husband and wife were that of goodness. And generally, the child would be like that. But that's not the only criteria. If the child's nature is that of a Kshatriya or a Vaishya, what can be done? So, but to quote that, he quotes this verse from the seventh canto. Yasya yallakshanam proktam pumso varna abhivyanjakam yad anyatrapi drishyate tatteneva vinidishet. If one shows the symptoms of being a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra as described above, even if he has appeared in a different class, he should be accepted according to those symptoms of classification. Lakshana. We have to see the Lakshana. If somebody is born in a Brahmana family, but he has a Lakshana of a Vaishya, he's always thinking about business, then he's a Vaishya. But somebody is born in a Kshatriya family, but he has these qualities of Shamo, Damo, Tapa, Arjun. He's very simple, he's very truthful. Then he's got the qualities of a Brahmana. So there is this Swabhava, and then based on the Swabhava, there is a Swakarma, and then there is a Swadharma, and which is called as Varnashram Dharma. Now, many devotees, this is like, it's not a great science. It's very simple. Many ask, how do I know what is my nature? How do I know that? So you can know your nature based on your Swakarma. Swakarma means what kind of activities are you inclined to? What is your mental inclination, as some say, and based on that, you can understand your Swabhava. That's how you can understand your Swabhava. So there is Swabhava and there is Swakarma, develops his occupation. And based on the Swabhava, there is Swanirvama, means of livelihood. So then I'm just giving an example. This is the Brahmana Swabhava. So based on that, he is inclined for this kind of karma. Patana Patana, Yajana Yajana, Dana, Pratigraha. And his Swanirvaha is Dana. He survives on Dana. And Pratigraha, he does that. So the livelihood has to be pure. Now here the emphasis, please remember the livelihood has to be extremely pure. If your livelihood is coming from impure means, then your subtle conditioning, instead of getting purified, it will get more and more contaminated. And where to speak of practicing pure devotional service? That's the point Bhaktivinoda Thakur is making. Now, now we are here on this verse, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur is quoting the commentary of Sridhar Swami. In his commentary, Sridhar Swami has written, Shamadibir eva Brahmanadi Vyavharo Mukhya. The Brahmana's main characteristics are qualities such as peacefulness, not birth. Na jati matravat itya aha yaseti. It's not just birth. But if he's very peaceful by nature, then you have to understand that he's a Brahmana. Yad yadi anyatra varnantare api drishyate tad varnantaram teneva lakshana nimikteneva varnena vinidirshet. न tu jati nimiktnete nimityandeti artha. If these main characteristics are seen in persons other than those born in Brahmanas, then such persons should be considered Brahmanas. They should not be considered according to their caste by birth. This kind of eternal Varnashram Dharma is always to be followed. Now, what is this eternal Varnashram Dharma? First, you have to understand eternal Varnashram Dharma means that you classify within this material world also, uh, you classify uh, based on their Lakshana symptoms. So Varnashram in a seedling form is there in this whole, even in Russia, in America, everywhere it is there. Because it is in eternal principle. So this is first thing to be understood. And it is there in the heavenly planets, it is there in the upper planets, Janaloka, Maharloka, Tapaloka, it is there in Satyaloka. The kings, that is the heavenly rulers, they are, rulers, Indra, Vayu, Chandra, they are Kshatriyas by nature, please remember. But Brahma is also one of the rulers of this universe. But he's a Brahmana by nature. He's a Brahmana. So like that, there are these different divisions. So this is one understanding you have to have, which is the right understanding in this context. But also we have to know that even in Vaikunta and even in Golok Vrindavan, Varnashram is there. It's eternal. It is there. You know? And this comes up in the Brihad Bhagavatamrit. Narad Muni and uh, Uddhava, they are in Dwarka, and you know some discussion happens, and Uddhava says, see, actually a Kshatriya. You are a Brahmana. I think you should actually do this. So that's even that although they are in spiritual bodies, they are completely transcendental, but still they identify themselves like this. And even you saw in Dwarka, there was Varnashram. So in one sense, this is eternal, but actually in this context here, the eternal Varnashram, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is referring here in this world. It is often useful for devotional service. It is useful for devotional service. Please remember, members of the four Varnas and the lower caste should be eager to progress their sattvic nature. You have to come to that sattvic nature. If an outcast becomes fortunate due to his past deeds, then he should progress his cultivation of goodness while following the conduct of a Shudra. He should follow his conduct of Shudra, but gradually increase the cultivation of goodness. Everyone should give prominence to devotional service and progress in the cultivation of goodness to the platform of Nirgun transcendence by the mercy of the devotees. These are the stages of Sanatan Dharma. With devotion, the members of any Varna is considered the best of the Brahmanas. Without devotion, the life of a Brahmana fixed in goodness is useless. Shama evahi kevalam. If there is no devotion. So, any questions up till now? Anyone has about this important discussion we are having? Any questions? Any clarifications? No. Okay. For example, let us consider the statement. Some Mahatmas have said, Srila Narottam Das Thakur from Prema Bhajana, Mahajanarena Pata Ta Teha Vai Anurakta Purvapar Kariyache Vichar. I will be attached to the path chalked out by the previous and the later Mahajans. So here, one should follow, give prominence to devotional service. So this is what the Mahajans have thought. If you don't have devotion, if devotion is not in the center, then you know you are, if, even if you're a Brahmana, cultivation mode of goodness, then it's simply waste of time. And if you are a, you are an outcast and you're giving prominence to devotion service, then you're best of the Brahmanas. That's the point. So we have to follow the Mahajans, the rishis and the Mahatmas who have taught conduct before the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are counted among the previous Mahajans. So there are the previous Mahajans. The conduct seen in the Mahajans after the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the conduct of the later Mahajans. So among the previous Mahajans and the later Mahajans, we have to follow the later Mahajans after Mahaprabhu. Because ours is, the Gaudiya mission. We are Gaudiyas. We are the followers of Mahaprabhu. How Mahaprabhu has taught? Because Mahaprabhu has come to give Vraj Bhakti. So, which is established by Rupa Goswami. So, we have to follow the conduct of later Mahajans. The conduct of the later Mahajans is superior and should be adopted. The conduct of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers is meant to teach people. So, that conduct should be followed in all respects. So, now, after speaking about this Sadhu Vritti, now following in the footsteps of previous acharyas. And now previous acharyas means acharyas coming after Mahaprabhu. We have to follow their conduct, their vritti. I hope you understood how Bhaktivinoda Thakur has very systematically established. He's coming now to this point of how to follow the previous footsteps of previous acharyas. What is the proper occupation? To know this, one should see the behavior of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's follower. As far as possible, I will briefly compile them in this essay. Now, he has already spoken about, if you remember, vritti means, the propensity and also lifestyle. So, propensity means sabhava. That he has all discussed now. And now he is going to discuss about lifestyle. What kind of lifestyle you should follow. So he is going to discuss. First, I will write the behavior and occupation of Grihastha as found in the character of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees. So he is going to write about Grihasthas and a list maybe 30 or 40 things. Then he'll list for the sannyasis, maybe around another 20, 40 items. And then he'll list common for both Grihasthas and sannyasis. So now it is going to be just a list, and we are just going to go through this list one by one. We know there is two kinds of sadhus, grahasthas and renunciants. So he's going to list now the vritti. One is based on the nature as well as the lifestyle. So both will come up here. And I think this is one thing we should take a printout, these 40 things, and paste it with us. If we are grahasthas, and those who are brahmacharis, vanaprastha and sannyasi, they should print out and keep it with them. Okay. So, for grahasthas, as a support for devotional service, a householder should find a suitable wife. If one is at home, he should marry. He cannot be Prabhupada said, if you're at home and you don't get married, it's like bachelor daddy, he says. And the proof is, grahastha haila me ebe chai graha dharma grihini vina graha dharma nai hoye shabana. You have to follow the graha dharma. If you're staying at a home, you have to follow the graha dharma. And for the graha dharma, there has to be a grihini. And without the grihini, graha dharma na hoy shobana. Since I am remaining at home, it is my duty to act as a grihastha. Without wife, there is no meaning to householder life. So this is a very, please note everything. You know, today it has become, a trend, that I take up to Krishna consciousness. Somehow things have not worked out for me. Then, if you're a brahmachari or a vanaprastha or a sannyasi, you have to, of course, not sannyasis, but at least for the brahmacharis and vanaprastha, you have to say that you cannot stay at home. You have to stay in the ashram of your guru. And so guru sannyasi is staying in the ashram. So the varna, you know, has a connection with the ashram. The varna is for the body, gradual elevation of the body to become free from the conditioning. The ashrama is meant for the spiritual development of the soul. Spiritual development of the soul. So both, there is a grahastha ashram, and he's a grahastha. So the ashram helps him to purify his swabhava and gradually make spiritual development. And now the second thing, while maintaining religious family life with one's wife. Okay, I hope the first one is clear. And if you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hands. So while maintaining religious family life with one's wife, sons and daughters are born in the form of Krishna's servants and maid servants. To nourish them is called maintaining the family. Now, what is the deep point you see here Bhaktivinoda Thakur is making? Anyone raise your hands? Many of you are grahasthas here. Or even if you are not. What is the deep point? What is the deep point to which Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying here? No. Please raise your hands. I would like to see who are speaking, otherwise. Please raise your hands. Jagdishwar Prabhu, I heard your voice. What are you trying to say?
Yes, Prabhuji, we have to see whatever children are born and their connection with Krishna.
Yeah, they are not my children. They are actually, servants, Krishna's servants and maid servants. Maid servant is still a higher platform, huh? These are like sakis and the maid servants like manjaris. So after first child is born, the second child is like, like that. Yesterday I met one grahastha and I was chanting, and till now I had seen only his middle son, whom I knew. And he used to come to the temple and he's always chanting, doing devotional activities. Very small, 8, 10 years old maybe. But somebody told me a few days back, no, he has actually got three children. He's got one younger son and he's got one elder daughter. I said, I was in a state of shock. I said, I never knew that he's got three children. I thought he's got only one child. And, I asked him, Prabhu, yesterday I heard that you have three children, but I thought you have one. No, they are all servants of Krishna, he said. So that is the consciousness one should have. And you're maintaining Krishna's family, not my family, because you have to be free from aham and mama. In these activities, there is a need for piously accumulating wealth. So here now the point Bhaktivinoda Thakur is coming. In this regard, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said in the Chaitanya Bhagavat and Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhu bole parivar ekana tumara nirvaha kimate tabe hobe sabara grahastha hoina chahiya sanchay na kaile kutumba bharan nahi hoy. The Lord said, there are so many members in your family. Parivar ekana tumhara, anek tumhara. How will you maintain everywhere? Nirvaha kimate tabe hobe sabara. Being a householder, grahastha hoina, one needs to save some money. Chaya sanchay. Because he was not doing so, sanchay na kailai. It is very difficult for him to maintain his family. Kaile kutumb bharan nahi hoy. So this is for Srivas. He was not, had so many members in his family, but he was not working. But Srivas is on a transcendental film, we cannot imitate that. Now, one must be educated at a proper age, but he should not study atheistic literature. Now, just think about it. That means all children who are born in Grihast family should go to Gurukul. Because if you go to the modern schools, right from beginning, atheism is taught. Prabhupada's very one of the most heaviest of the heaviest statements, if you have ever come across, is in one uh, Tvamna sandarshito dhatra dushtaram nitishtite satam kala sattva haram pumsam karnadhara. Here he says, this age is a very dangerous age for human being. Proper saying dangerous. It is meant for self-realization, but because of this dangerous, many have completely forgotten. And then Prabhupada says the whole system of education is geared to sense gratification. And if a learned man thinks over, he sees that the children of this age are being intentionally sent to slaughterhouses of so-called education. Prabhupada is comparing so-called education to slaughterhouse because it is killing self-realization. And once I was in Vrindavan, and from Vrindavan I took a rickshaw to Chatikara, and next to me was a student who was in his uniform. I asked him, being a Brajvasi, I offered respects to him because he's a Brajvasi, and asked, where do you stay? He said he stays next to Madan Mohan temple, or rather Raman temple, he said. And I was saying, you're so fortunate, you're staying next to, one of the Goswami temples. And from his mouth came words of atheism. Because he was studying science, he was hardcore atheist who had absolutely no faith in God. Absolutely no faith in God. And I was really stunned. Born in Braj, has a birth in Braj, which is so rare, staying next to a temple, and because of this education. So this is where communities have to work to have their own education system. Of course, whatever is needed for nirvaha, that has to be also being taught. And as long as we don't do this, there's no question we can implement varnashram. There's no question. In Chaitanya Bhagavat, Adi, Kanda, and Madhya. पढ़े के ने लोक कृष्ण भक्ति जानी बार से यदि नाहिला तबे vidya की करे. Why do people study? Education is only for understanding devotional service to Lord Krishna. Krishna Bhakti Jani Bar. Yadi Nahila, Tabi Vidyara Ki Kare. If you miss this point, then what is the use of your education? Shrama Evahi Kevalam. Shrama Evahi Kevalam. I'm just also just mentioning an incident just a week back. I was going along with my friend devotees in a car in Goa from one place to another place where we had our Bhakti Vaibhav course. And one of the senior Matajis, who was a devotee, she had to visit a hospital because her daughter-in-law, uh, that means her son-in-law's mother, she was hospitalized. So her daughter is given to them, and her son-in-law mother was hospitalized. She was in the ICU. And she requested me to come and at least see the son-in-law's mother. And I went there, And I just went inside the ICU and I just chanted one round of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, asked her condition. She was a well-wisher of ISKCON because although the daughter is practicing Krishna consciousness, she's favorable. The husband is also little favorable who comes sometime to the temple. And, you know, uh, the son-in-law's mother, who was actually in the hospital, she just said Hare Krishna also, and she was looking quite positive, although she was going through a very difficult condition. And both her lungs had failed, and there was pneumonia in the lungs, and there was only 1 or 2 days left for her. And I came and told the son-in-law outside that why you want to keep her in the hospital? Let her take a natural death at home. You be surrounded with all your family members, chant Hare Krishna. But they were not allowing the mantra, music also inside the ICU. What's the point? You know, she's not able to speak, and the more she takes this artificial oxygen, that is going to disturb the pranavayu, and her mind will not be in the right state to remember the Lord also, even if she wants to remember. But instead of that, take her to home and let her leave the world naturally. Although he was favorable, he was the elder member of the family, and he could have taken that decision, but he had to call his younger two brothers. And the younger two brothers were very, very highly materially educated. And they were against this. And although the doctor had told that she has only 2 days to survive, so, what can be done? This education, if it doesn't lead to devotional service, this is what, my point was that if it doesn't lead to devotional service, then you miss the point. Everyone is blinded by pride and sense gratification. Pride because of education. Vishaya madanda saba kichu na jane. Being proud of their education and wealth, they fail to recognize a Vaishnava. Vidya made, dhana made, Vaishnav na chine. If one studies Srimad Bhagavatam improperly, his intelligence is polluted. Bhagavad Padiya ka oro buddhi nash. Of course, this is instruction. I don't know in which context it is given. Maybe somebody who had studied Vedanta and come back. I think it is Bhagwan Acharya's brother, and he was speculating. That's why maybe Mahaprabhu is giving this instruction. Serving guests is the principal duty of Grahastha. This is the Lord's instruction. So this is another important following in the footsteps of previous acharyas. So this has to do with lifestyle. This has to do with sabhava. Again, this is again mainly a lifestyle. And this is again sabhava. You have to follow your sabhava. So some are sabhav, some are lifestyle. So, okay, I have completely missed out. Now it's almost time up. Let us finish this principle. Serving guest. In Chaitanya Bhagavat, it is stated, Grahastara Mahaprabhu Shikayana Dharma Atithira Seva Grahastara Mula Karma Akatava Chitta Suke Yaha Ara Ena Shakati Taha Karile Bhole Atiti Bhakati. In this way, the Lord satisfied all his guests and taught the world how to behave as a perfect householder. The foremost duty of a householder is to serve his guest. This is the foremost duty. If a householder happily serves his guest without duplicity and according to his ability, he is considered hospitable. Now, please remember, it is the foremost duty, principal duty. Principal means the foremost. And it is very rare, even in Krishna consciousness, to find uh, the grahastas who are following this principle of making this as the foremost duty. It's very, very rare. Sad to tell, but it is a reality. Prabhupada, you know, there is one, very interesting pastime. Uh, One of the devotees, Prabhupada's brahmachari disciple, decided to become a grahastha because he could not tolerate the urge for sex. And he was advised to change his ashram. And he got he got married. And you know, basically because he could not tolerate his urges. And he came and asked Prabhupada, "What is my duty, Prabhupada?" Prabhupada, what he was expecting something to, Prabhupada said. He said, every day when you cook in your home, this is in America, Prabhupada is saying, before you honor prasad, you have to call out, is anyone hungry? Is anyone hungry? Is anyone hungry? 3 times. And you know, then only honor your prasad. And this devotee was stunned. He could not understand. So again, he asked the same question to Prabhupada. Again, Prabhupada replied the same thing. Again, he asked, because now he is in a different mood, because he's got wife and, you know, tendencies to enjoy, in the Grahastha ashram, enjoy food, enjoy facilities, and so many other enjoyments. But it is the foremost duty of a Grahastha that without feeding others, he should not take prasad. Otherwise, he cannot make advancement. And if he doesn't get anyone to feed, he should feed the ants, the other living beings. Without feeding others, he should not take. So difficult principle to follow. So this is also very important, you know. And I know, I don't want to take the name. I know one family which I've seen for years together. They live in the Holy Dham. Every day, at least I have seen 10 to 15 guests at their home who are serving, and then they honor Prasad. And the most exalted, both the Prabhuji and Mataji are very, very exalted. They are Paramhamsas because they have followed this principle. Mm. Every day. Because in the Dham, many devotees also come and they have that kind of relationships also. They invite. And in fact, I was feeling awkward as a brahmachari because I know that family very well. They used to tell every day, please come and honor Prasad. I said, how can I do that, Mataji? No, you have to come every day because you want, nourishment, and there in the Dham, it's very difficult to get good, nutritious Prasad. So you come every day. So, this is how the Grahasthas, this is the ideal, which is very, very difficult. Of course, uh, this principle can be discussed quite in detail. There are also grahasthas who, when the guest, the visiting guests from outstation come, who are very senior sannyasis, they invite. But you should also invite simple devotees, even within the community. This is how we should do that. Okay, last one I'll take, fifth one. A grahastha should act with simplicity in his dealings with people. He should not allow any kind of cheating or duplicity in his heart. Chaitanya Bhagavat, the Lord says, Atayeva grihitumi Krishna bhaje giya kutinati parihari ekanta hoya. Therefore, go back to your home and worship Lord Krishna with full attention, giving up all duplicity. Okay, this is fifth. This should have been sixth. Sorry, the numbering is there. Okay, we will take this up in the next class. This is how the continuation of discussion, and it is very, very interesting. Any questions, any clarifications anyone has? Any doubts? Any clarifications? No. Okay. So we will, Priya Mataji has a question. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji Dandapur.
Yes.
You said the difference between Varna and Ashram.
Varna and ashram. Okay.
Varna, you said, is for purification of body.
Can you speak a little loudly, please?
Varna is for purification of body.
Varna is, related to the body, the nature of the body, sabhava, and ashram is meant for, elevation of the soul. Ashrama, elevation of the soul. There is the ashrama it is meant for spiritual elevation. But you have to first also materially elevate yourself. You have to purify your sabhava based on your varna. You have to make a livelihood where you don't commit sin. It has to do with the taking care of the body's nature, and purification of the sabhava. And ashram is for the spiritual development of the soul. Like a grahastha, he is in the grahastha ashram. Okay. His varna can be a brahmana. He's a brahmana, but he's in the grahastha ashram. So from that, the grahastha has to elevate spiritually by purifying his nature, being in the grahastha ashram, doing all the duties, and slowly go to the vanaprastha ashram and go to the sannyasa ashram. So that's how you have to understand. Is it clear? Yes, Mataji.
Yes, this is clear. Just the last question. You said maid servants. You mentioned that all children at home, family members should be connected with Krishna. In that context, even the maid servants. You mentioned maid servants are
No,
like
no, no,
bunch.
no, 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 no. It's not the maid servants. The children are considered as maid servants. The children are considered as maid servants. Here, servants and maid servants. And I mentioned servant is like the firstborn child is a servant. The second is, servant of the servant. So it's like a maid servant in that sense. Are you getting this point? Is it clear or no?
Yes, so the children are like maid servants and they are
No, no,
manjaris.
no,
Something you
no.
mentioned about sakhis and manjaris.
No, the first child which is born is like servant. The second child which is born is like the servant of the servant. Something like that, you have to understand. Okay. Okay, so thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Shri Bhaktyaloka ki jai. Hare Krishna.